Well, welcome to the Church Answers podcast. This is our fourth and final part of a four-part series that we are doing on American Protestantism. We are looking at the good, the bad, and the ugly of Protestant churches in America over the past 25 years. My name is Jess Rayner. I'm here with my dad, Thom Rayner. And so we are coming to the end of this series that I think has been really helpful. It's been really helpful from a history standpoint. It's been helpful from an understanding of why we got here. I also think it's really helpful to know where we're going and what's next.
These dudes point in a lot of directions.
Mm-hmm.
They're showing that certain things are happening. You asked me a very prescient question last time, and you said, what are you seeing in all this? What's the summary? And I'm saying there are good pockets of positive, enough of them where I can say, all right, when it's all said and done, I have hope for American congregations, American Protestantism.
Yep. And we're going to get to that hope. But before we get to that hope, we're going to go through our final 5 failures. And then one of the things we talk about that is not a failure, though, is Cheney Associates. Cheney Associates is one of our sponsors for this podcast. They have had a lot of success in helping churches with their finances. And so if your church has any bookkeeping or accounting needs, go check out CheneyAssociates.com/church answers. Go set up a discovery call with them. It's free to do a discovery call with them. Doesn't matter your church size. It doesn't matter your church budget. Go and talk with them. They will help you. They understand stewardship matters. They know time is precious, and so they want to help with both. They're going to let you. They're going to take some off your plate to let you lead more. And so go check out CheneyAssociates.com. And we're so thankful for their work and how they love the local church. They love local church leaders, and they're ready to help. But let's get into it. Our final 5, we looked at a total of 20, but these are our last 5 regarding some failures of American Protestantism in the past 25 years. And number 6 is a weak response to the sexual revolution. All right, that one's going to need definitely some explaining to do. A weak response to the sexual revolution.
The summary statement is most churches were caught off guard. Should they have been? Should they have not been? That's not the question I'm trying to answer, but just simply to say most churches were caught off guard. And as these churches were caught off guard, they weren't prepared for some of the things that were happening. For example, 2 of the most common questions we get at Church Answers. 1, I have a trans person in my church now. What do I do? And it's maybe not that simple, but there's complexities. How do I handle this transgender person that is in my church? What do I do about it? Another one is, and this is even more common. Hey, we've got a couple that are very active in our church, but they're not married and they're living together. Well, that's part of the sexual revolution, and there are a lot of Christians who say, "What's the big deal?" Which means that we've kind of failed in that area. I think we did. I think we were late to the game, too, when the homosexual movement became more pervasive or public, let me put it that way, and we heard more about it. That was when I was a pastor, and especially when AIDS came out before, when it was the stamp of death, when it first came out, and particularly in the homosexual community. So what I think is that the church seems like it's tepid to get into these issues. They're late to the game, and as a result, we've seen a lot of sexual harassment, sexual molestation in churches where churches were just not prepared to deal with this thing. So my response on that is late to the game, to the tragedy for many.
Yeah. And why do you think that is, though? Like, why do you think there's the hesitancy? Why do you think there's this? I mean, and maybe this is just because of the way I see it. I feel like the Bible is pretty clear on a lot of these issues. So what is it that makes someone hesitant or wants to have a weak response? Or it sounds like more of a slow response to it. What is there a fear behind that? Like, you got a why?
I think one of the whys is the relational issue, and that is this: everybody knows somebody, or everybody has someone in their family, if not immediate, pretty close, that is struggling with one of these areas of sexuality. And so there's this hesitancy to act like we're condemning something which we're not condemning. But many times that's the way we respond. We respond with condemnation instead of a firm stand that is a loving stand. And we're just not good at that. We never have been good at that.
Yeah.
So that's my summary statement.
Well, I'll add one thing to that, and I think what's happened, particular and as you called it, the sexual revolution, in particular, sin has become an identity. I think in years past, maybe even prior 25 years, sin was something that was outside of you. Sin was something you did. But now what's happening is sin is an identity. This is who I am. And so as a pastor, if I preach on something that I say, hey, that the Bible says that's wrong, that becomes an attack on someone's identity and who they are because they associate themselves with that. And so it's a lot harder. I think this is why I think churches are slower or weaker to respond. It's trying to navigate the idea of sin versus who you are with that, and so it creates that slower response as well. So that's what I've seen more in recent years, in particular. I'd say the last 5 years, which goes back to the emphasis on who you are in Christ.
That's where the identity is.
Yeah. So, okay, that was one of the failures. That was number 6. We got 4 more we're looking at. Another failure of American Protestantism in the past 25 years is declining evangelism and declining church attendance.
This is not the fault of culture. This is the fault of the church. We have lowered the bar so much of what it means to be a part of a local church that it means almost nothing. Therefore, we are not evangelizing. Therefore, we do not have a commitment to attend. I am not legalistic about it, but goodness gracious, if you are a God-loving Christian, you should be in a church every Sunday, unless the old phrase, providentially hindered, because that should be a part of what we do. There are 2 institutions that God reveres in the Bible: the church and the family. And if it's like saying to your spouse, I ain't gonna be around much, you're still important to me, but you'll see me every other week or something like that. I think this is the low expectation model that the church has created in the 21st century.
Yeah, I think this is more pervasive in with my demographic, my age bracket. There was a major movement of Christianity as a relationship, not a religion, and I get why. Because it was trying to overcome cultural Christianity. It was trying to come this idea of religious activity without having any kind of relationship. But I think what inadvertently it created was this idea that religion is not important. In fact, the Bible says complete opposite. Jesus cares a lot about religion, but he cares about right religion. He cares about religion that is based on a relationship with Jesus Christ. And so where that saying just grew, I think it gave permission for people not to do religious activity. Because as long as I have a relationship, then I'm okay. I don't need to go to church. I don't need to do these things because that's not what Christianity is. Well, that's only half right. Your relationship produces right religion. And so I think that has been a major weakness of American Protestantism. I feel like, for me in particular, in the past 15 to 20 years, and something I've been really trying to, at my church, to say, this is who we are. Like, we worship, we serve, we pursue Jesus, we reach others. Like, that's right religion based.
You're raising the bar. Exactly.
Well, but it's because the bar got removed inadvertently. I believe that it was good hearts, but it inadvertently got removed. I see so many more of my peers just like, well, I have Jesus. Why do I need to go to church? Why do I need to do those things?
And that is a common phrase I hear. And it is simply this: the church is not a building, it's the people. Well, the implication behind that is you don't need to go to the building or wherever the church gathers. No, you need to go to wherever the church gathers. It doesn't have to be a building, it can be a field, it can be anything, but you need to be a part of the gathered church. It's not an excuse to have Lone Ranger Christianity. Yeah.
And then I think the again, going back to the declining church attendance, is also declining evangelism. It's become so, well, that's just me and my personal relationship. I don't need to do anything else. It's like,
or it's the pastor's job to do evangelism, or I'm uncomfortable because I don't want to offend someone. The list goes on and on. Satan is winning a battle of evangelism in the American Protestant church.
Yep. Yeah. And so this is one, I know we've talked a lot about hope. this is when that's got to reverse fast. This is when we've got to see.
And that's why we created the Hope Initiative, to
Mhm.
get churches to change their culture of evangelism.
Mhm.
And that's why it's in thousands of churches today.
Mm-hmm. And it's why we partner with strategic partners here at Church
Like,
Answers,
like,
like Upward Sports.
go upward.
They are all about helping you reach your community, and so they do it through sports. And in particular, they have this amazing 5K challenge. So you talk about a building, you don't even need a building. So if you're the church is not a building, all right. Well, here they're going to do. They're gonna take your church into the community and have a 5K challenge. They're going to set everything up. They're going to have coaching. They're going to do everything you need. Just lace up those tennis shoes, sign up with Upward Sports, and go reach the community through running. In particular, this is running for adults. Go to upward.org/runcoach. Again, they will provide coaching. Upward.org/runcoach. It's so simple to start. Just need one passionate leader, and they're going to help you develop a 5K challenge for your church and for your community.
I love it.
Yeah, absolutely. So reverse that declining evangelism and church attendance. Again, we're looking at some of the final aspects of American Protestantism. Particularly, we're looking at the final 5 failures. We looked at the weak response to sexual revolution, the declining evangelism. Our third one of this episode, our 8th one overall, is racial divisions continue.
I am hopeful because there are more multi-ethnic, multiracial churches. I am hopeful because I see that the trend is going to reverse itself.
Mm-hmm.
I am giving it this particular description for the past 25 years. I'm not so sure I will give it for the next 25 years. So
Okay.
I'm saying there's hope coming out of this.
Mm-hmm.
We struggle to get to this point. We struggle to get to where skin color is not a big issue. But, it's your generation and your children that don't even think about skin color.
Hmm.
And
yeah, I mean, they know it's there, but it's not
okay,
it's not an
like
issue.
Yeah. That's what I mean. They don't think of it as an issue.
Right. Yeah, it's not. Yeah. Just that they just see it as a characteristic. I think a guy, said something about that. It's something about not letting the skin color define who you are. I think that is changing. But you're right. You think it holistically over the past 25 years, it's been an issue.
It has been.
And it does. It still exists. And I think there's certain parts of the U.S. where it is more prominent still.
Mm-hmm.
And so while I guess racial divisions still exist. It's kind of how I would phrase that. It's not that it's not growing. It's just, it still exists, and it needs not to be there. So
right.
Our 9th one, again, our 4th of this episode, but 9th overall of some of the failures of American Protestantism in the past 25 years is financial unsustainability.
Yeah, and that has to do with our buildings more than anything.
Okay.
We've created large edifices. We've created buildings that we cannot keep maintained. We have all kind of deferred maintenance. I've been urging so many people just to call Brown Church Development Group and talk to them about what can we do to plan. They plan the future for your buildings, and it's so helpful. It is just so helpful whether you need a building program or not. And I'm concerned because more and more churches are closing off parts of their building. I did a consultation in a church in Tennessee, not Nashville, but in Tennessee, where they had yellow tape because the city had condemned part of their facilities.
Oh, dear.
Yes, that's not good.
No, that's not good. So financial unsustainability, so if there's less giving to the church, in particular, there's this overhead. There's this structure that the finances can't support anymore.
And even when there was better giving, there was not preparation for the future of the building. There were not reserves set aside. There was not, what are we going to need in the future? Well, let's just spend what we have now. So that's part of the problem too.
Yeah, that's those cash reserves, building those up. I guess so many churches haven't seen that, and we are seeing churches close their doors ultimately because they cannot sustain it.
And when that happens, usually a church does not want to acquire the facility, another church.
Well, too much deferred maintenance.
Too much deferred. It's going to cost me too much to get that church building. That was going to be the solution. Hey, we're going to get a healthy church to acquire the campus, and you're going to have a presence in the community. Well, no, we can't afford that now.
Yep. Well, let's look at our final failure of American Protestantism, and this is again overall over 4 episodes. This is our 20th aspect of American Protestantism that we're looking at. This is our fifth one of this episode, but it's our 10th failure. It is the failure to engage thoughtfully with culture.
Well, you have one extreme, which is cultural accommodation. That's where you're watering down biblical teaching in order to be accepted by culture, in order to be embraced by culture. Then you have cultural hostility, where you go into isolation. We hate those people, and we know all the types of groups that are out there that do that, rather than the alternative, which is engaging culture, not embracing what they believe, but engaging them where they are and being gospel presence there. I think there's hope for it, Jess. I really do. 25 years would tell me it's been a tough 25 years in that area, but I do think there's hope for the future. So, we come out of all of these, and what do? I say the final grade.
Yep, let's hear it.
The final grade is a C. And that's why we had 10 negatives and 10 positives. I mean, that's kind of right down the middle. The trajectory is a B.
Okay.
I am optimistic that we're beginning to see more clearly some of the things that are causing the problems and what we are doing to contribute to the problem, we, the church. And so I am an obnoxious optimist about the future of the American church. And I think it's headed for a B, maybe even an A minus, maybe not in my lifetime, but in your lifetime.
All right. So what is it that it makes us go from a C to B? What in particular? What pieces?
The awareness that evangelism is missing in our churches. Okay. I mean, you just have to accept that. The racial barriers that are beginning to fall, we're beginning to accept that. The sexual revolution, we're beginning to understand that our churches aren't safe. And I'd recommend that you get our resource on Safe Church if you want to find out how your church can be very safe. The fact that church planting is still going strong, and that we're replacing the dying churches, not one for one, but we're replacing some of them with new churches. Those things alone give me hope for the future.
All right. One more question. What would it take to get to an A plus then? If you're saying that's going to go from a C to B, what do we need to do? If you're a church like, okay, that's great overall, but I want my church to be an A plus, what would you add on to that?
Jesus coming. How about an A? How about an A?
Okay.
I would. Here's one thing I would do, and I'm not trying to promote the resource here, but it's just so good. I would take my church health. I would take the Know Your Church study. Find out where your church perceives it is in each of these areas, and find out where they perceive that you're weak, and start working on each of those. You've got a tool to do it.
Okay.
So start working on that. I know you weren't setting me up for that, but that's what I'd do.
I think that's great. I mean, it is. You got to, if you want to lead your church, you got to know your church.
Right.
And that's why we have the Know Your Church. If you want to reach your community, you got to know your community, which is why you have Know Your Community. There's so much power in just understanding and knowing where you are,
right,
and who's around you. And so, well, this has been a little bit different than our normal podcast. This has been a bit of a history lesson, but with so many practical points that you as a church leader may not have realized you need to know, but it's so helpful to look at the holistic and look at the history of the past 25 years. And so if you just picked us up with this episode, go back and watch the previous 3. It's a 4-part series, but we're glad to have you on this journey. Any just final closing thoughts overall when it comes to American Protestantism?
Go with what you have learned in these podcasts. Hopefully you have listened to it, and pick 1 or 2 areas where you can start improving. Just
good.
Very practical.
Yep. Don't try and do them all.
Yep.
Don't try and make the successes even better. Don't try to make the failures reverse them all. Don't try and do all 20. Take 1 or 2 and run after it. So, well, thanks so much. We're so glad that you are here. We do want to thank one of our sponsors just one more time, Cheney Associates. They do accounting work for the church, and they are the best in doing it. And so if you have any financial or accounting or bookkeeping needs, go check out CheneyAssociates.com/churchanswers. They are all about helping you out. They get the local church. They understand. If you maybe think, well, an accountant has no idea what I need.
He does.
Yes, they do. Yes,
He
they do.
does.
They totally do. And so go check out ChaneyAssociates.com/church answers. Schedule a call with them. It's a free call. Doesn't matter your church size or your church budget. Get on the phone with them. Send them an email and get connected with them. So thanks so much for being here. And if you've listened to all 4 parts, thanks so much for journeying with us. I've learned along the way, and hopefully you have as well.
If you're on a YouTube channel, give us a thumbs up,
Yeah.
subscribe.
Mm-hmm.
If you're on a favorite podcasting app, give us a rating and review. Get the word out, because there's a lot of people I think that could benefit from these 4 podcasts.
Yeah, we'd love to have you do that. Until we come up with the next episode, give those ratings, give those reviews, give those likes, and then we look forward to seeing you on the next episode of the Church Answers podcast. We'll see you then.